Switzerland. I don't know exactly when. The way that we're setting up this technical negotiation is that obviously you're going to have the political leadership involved. Excuse me. We're going to have people on the ground actually driving the technical talks, the nuclear talks. How do you destroy this highly enriched uranium? All that stuff that you really just have to get into the nitty gritty on. So, I plan to go to Switzerland. Exactly when, we think these technical negotiations are going to start sometime this weekend. That's still the plan, but that could change because it's not an easy country, Iran, to get out of. And so we're trying to figure out exactly when that's going to happen.
If it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming JD. You better be careful, JD.
The much-hyped US-Iran diplomatic breakthrough appears to have hit another roadblock. US Vice President JD Vance has confirmed that he will not be traveling to Switzerland for the peace deal signing. Switzerland's foreign ministry has also confirmed that the talks scheduled for 19th June have been postponed. The development throws fresh uncertainty over the fragile Iran deal, which was expected to enter a crucial implementation phase post the signing. It also puts renewed focus on President Donald Trump's remarks at the G7 summit, when he passed on a threat to his VP in the garb of a joke. What was brushed off as humor at the time now appears far more significant, as the future of the deal once again hangs by a thread. Imagine being the one person in the room who never really wanted the war, and then suddenly being handed the responsibility of selling the peace. That's the position US Vice President JD Vance appears to find himself in today. Because if this newly announced US-Iran deal actually works, Vance could emerge as the man who helped stabilize one of the most volatile regions of the world. But if it collapses, he may end up carrying the blame for the mess he was never responsible for. Don't be confused and let me explain.
What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars.
For months, Donald Trump repeatedly suggested that peace with Iran was close. Again and again and again. At one point, observers counted dozens of such optimistic predictions. But despite the declarations and breakthrough headlines, the reality on the ground remained far more complicated. Iran's military infrastructure may have taken significant damage, but Tehran also showed it still had the ability to strike. Missiles continued flying, shipping lanes remained under pressure, and uncertainty continued to define the Middle East. Now comes the latest announcement: a deal, a ceasefire, and potentially a path to negotiations. But here comes another problem. Right now, the details of the MOU remain unclear. Different versions of the agreement are circulating and multiple key questions remain unanswered. And even inside Republican circles, not everyone appears fully convinced. Take Senator Lindsey Graham, for example. His reaction stood out. Rather than focusing entirely on Trump, Graham repeatedly referred to JD Vance as the architect of the deal. Architect. That's a powerful word, because architects get celebrated when buildings stand. But when they collapse, people remember who designed them. And that's where politics enters the story.
I think the president's peace plan in Iran is already bearing real fruits for the American people. Last night, 12.5 million barrels of oil went through the Strait of Hormuz. That is a high since the beginning of the conflict. Oil prices are down nearly at their level from the pre-war conflict. Gas prices dropped below $4 a gallon today for the first time since the conflict. And importantly, they're going to keep falling further given how low oil prices are. On the military side, the Iranians for the second night in a row did not shoot at any ships in the Strait of Hormuz so far. They are honoring their end of the commitment. And on the blockade, CENTCOM has allowed north of a dozen ships to go through our naval blockade, and so we're also honoring our end of the early part of the agreement.
Reports have suggested Vance was among those more cautious about entering a broader conflict with Iran in the first place. He seemed far more comfortable talking about ending confrontation than expanding it. In interviews, he argued that America had neutralized the nuclear threat and now had an opportunity to push for a more stable Middle East. In other words, Vance became the public face of the diplomatic solution, which sounds great until diplomacy is tested. And that's where the risk begins. Iran's government doesn't exactly have a reputation that reassures its critics. Skeptics point to years of disputed commitments, failed agreements, and broken trust.
The Iranians will never change their behavior. Well, maybe that's true, and if so, they don't get any of the benefits of the bargain. But isn't it worth trying? Isn't it worth seeing whether this incredibly weakened position that the President of the United States has put the Iranians under, whether that motivates them to change their behavior, not just vis-a-vis the West, but vis-a-vis the Middle East?
Even now, confusion surrounds what this deal actually includes. One version reportedly mentions major reconstruction support. Another paints a completely different picture. Trump himself dismissed reports of massive payments to Iran as fake. At times, officials appear to be describing entirely different agreements. And that's what makes Vance's position so fascinating. If peace holds, if shipping routes reopen, if tensions cool, and if Iran follows through, then Vance could walk away looking like the man who delivered a diplomatic solution. But if missiles return, if negotiations break down, or if Tehran steps away from its commitments, Washington will eventually look for accountability. And critics are already making sure everyone remembers who the architect was. Because in politics, success has many fathers. Failure usually has one.
You send the vice president. If it works out, great, you look like a genius for sending him. And if it doesn't work out, it's the vice president's
I
fault.
like that idea, sure. Boy. This way, if it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming JD. You better be careful, JD. He's going to turn his plane around and get the hell out of here. Yeah, I like that idea. I think it's a good idea. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
For now, Vance appears to be on the right side of the story. The deal is being celebrated. The headlines are positive, and the administration is presenting it as a breakthrough. But the real test is in the announcement. It is what happens next. Because in Washington, today's peacemaker can become tomorrow's scapegoat. And JD Vance probably knows that better than anyone. And that's a wrap from my side. Thank you so much for watching, and I am Tamanna Akhtar signing off for Times Now Digital. Until next time, take care and keep watching this space for more such videos.